On November 13, 2022, 4 college students went to sleep in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. They would never wake up. What makes this case especially chilling is that while 4 people were being brutally stabbed to death upstairs, 2 roommates were alive just feet away, and one of them saw the killer's face. What she witnessed that night would haunt her forever, and the person responsible was a criminology PhD student who had been studying how to catch killers while planning to become one himself. This is the complete story of the Idaho student murders, a case so horrifying it captured international attention and left an entire community asking one question: why? Moscow, Idaho was a small college town of about 25,000 people, where the last murder had occurred 7 years earlier. The 6 roommates living at 1122 King Road appeared to be enjoying a typical college life. The 3-story rental house was home to 5 University of Idaho students and was often filled with friends and visitors. Kaylee Goncalves was 21 years old, a senior majoring in general studies with a minor in psychology. She had just accepted a job at an IT firm in Austin, Texas, and was only weeks away from graduating and starting her future. Madison Mogen, also 21, was Kaylee's best friend since 6th grade. The two were inseparable and chose to sleep in the same bed that night. Madison was studying marketing and planned to move to Boise after graduation. Xana Kernodle was 20 years old, a junior marketing major known for her bright personality. She was deeply in love with her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin. Ethan Chapin was also 20, a recreation, sport, and tourism management major. Although he did not live in the house, he was spending the night with Xana after attending a fraternity event. The other 2 roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, would survive the night, but their lives would be permanently changed. On the evening of November 12th, the roommates went about their normal routines. Kaylee and Madison went to a local sports bar. Xana and Ethan attended a fraternity party. Dylan and Bethany stayed home. By 2 a.m., everyone had returned to the house and gone to bed. But someone else was watching. Someone who had been circling the house for months. Someone who was about to turn this quiet college town into the center of one of the most shocking murder investigations in recent history. In the early morning hours of November 13th, a nightmare unfolded. At approximately 4 a.m., Dylan Mortensen woke up to strange noises. At first, she assumed it was her roommates moving around. Then she heard crying coming from Xana's room, followed by a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Confused and frightened, Dylan opened her bedroom door. A figure dressed in black, wearing a mask, walked past her. He appeared to be about 6 feet tall, with a slim build and bushy eyebrows, the only visible feature beneath the mask. He walked toward the sliding glass door and left the house. Dylan closed her door, locked it, and went into shock. She texted Bethany saying she was confused and that no one was answering. She did not call 911. Experts later explained that she was experiencing a freeze response, a natural reaction to extreme fear where the brain struggles to process what is happening. She was 19 years old, had been drinking, and just witnessed something her mind could not yet comprehend. The 2 surviving roommates stayed locked in Bethany's room for the rest of the night, repeatedly trying to reach the others. In the morning, everything remained eerily quiet. Calls and texts were unanswered. At 11:58 a.m., nearly 8 hours after the murders, a 911 call was made reporting an unconscious roommate. When police arrived, they discovered a scene of unimaginable horror. On the 2nd floor, Xana was found on the floor and Ethan on the bed. Blood had seeped through the walls of the house. On the 3rd floor, Kaylee and Madison were found together in bed, both brutally stabbed. The coroner later determined that all 4 victims were killed with a large fixed-blade knife. The injuries were so severe that some of the victims were described as mutilated and unrecognizable. But the killer made a critical mistake. A tanned leather knife sheath was found on the bed next to Kaylee and Madison. On it was a single source of male DNA. The hunt for the killer had begun. In the days that followed, fear gripped Moscow. Parents pulled students out of school, campuses emptied. Thousands of tips flooded in, and the FBI joined the investigation. Surveillance footage revealed a white Hyundai Elantra circling the neighborhood multiple times on the night of the murders. The car appeared near the house around the time the killings occurred. Investigators used genetic genealogy to trace the DNA from the knife sheath to a family in Pennsylvania. A name emerged: Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Kohberger was 28 years old and had recently moved to Washington State to pursue a PhD in criminology at Washington State University, just 8 miles from Moscow. He held degrees in psychology and criminal justice and was studying how criminals think and how investigations work. Cell phone records showed his phone had pinged near the victim's house at least 12 times before the murders, mostly late at night. On the night of the killings, his phone went dark for 2 hours, consistent with it being turned off. Hours later, it pinged near the house again. A white Hyundai Elantra registered to Kohberger was located on the Washington State University campus. On December 30th, 2022, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. Investigators observed him wearing gloves while sorting through garbage. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Those who knew Kohberger described him as intelligent but socially troubled. He reportedly used his position as a teaching assistant to inappropriately interact with female students and spoke frequently about wanting a girlfriend. Friends noticed scratch marks on his face and hands in the weeks surrounding the murders. He claimed they came from a car accident. After his arrest, Kohberger exhibited obsessive behaviors, including excessive hand-washing and pacing. During questioning, he acknowledged awareness of the murders but refused to speak further when pressed. For more than 2 years, he maintained his innocence. Then, on June 30th, 2025, just weeks before trial, Kohberger agreed to a plea deal. On July 2nd, 2025, he stood in court and admitted to killing Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. He showed no emotion as he confessed. On July 23, 2025, Bryan Kohberger was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 10 years for burglary. At sentencing, Dylan Mortensen spoke publicly for the first time, describing the trauma that still overwhelms her and the lives that were taken without reason. Bethany Funk's statement revealed deep survivor's guilt. Family members of the victims spoke of love, loss, anger, and forgiveness. Kohberger declined to speak. He waived his right to appeal and will spend the rest of his life in prison. Yet one question remains unanswered. Why? There was no known connection between Kohberger and the victims, no shared classes, no messages, no clear motive. The murder weapon was never found, and Kohberger never explained why he did it. 4 young lives were stolen in minutes. 2 survivors will carry trauma forever. Families and a community were left shattered. The house at 1122 King Road was demolished, but the pain and unanswered questions remain. Bryan Kohberger can never hurt anyone again, but for those left behind, the nightmare will never truly end. What remains is the memory of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, and the light they brought into the world, a light that cannot be extinguished. If you were watching that night, what would you remember? What would you change? And how would you live? knowing how fragile an ordinary night can be. Thank you for watching. If you value thoughtful, in-depth true crime storytelling, please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay aware and stay safe.